Happy Wednesday. My name's George Gary, and I have been doing these classes at 6:30 at night for about a month now while we're in a little bit of a little problem with the world. So I wanted to bring some happiness. And I used to be the pastry chef for Disney back in the 80s and the 90s, and we used to make all these different pastry that they aren't making today. In fact, some of those places aren't even there anymore. So I thought I'd make some today and show you guys how we did them. So make sure you watch every day. You can go back on Monday and Tuesday and see those. Currently, I teach around the country when we can travel, and I also work in the morning shows around the country, and my 14th and 15th books are coming out this next couple years. So you can look at for my books on Amazon. What I want to do is teach you my way of making a pie crust, because we're going to Tahitian Terrace pie is what we're going to make. It's a macadamia nut pie that it was so good. In fact, Chris Nichols from the LA Magazine recently asked me if I knew the recipe of it, and I said yeah, but my recipe made 60 pies, so I had to redo it and bring it down to one pie. And since I did that, I thought I'd share it with you guys. Tahitian Terrace closed a number of years ago, and now there's all this retro stuff with Tahitian and retro Hawaiian stuff that I think it would be really good to have this pie at your house. So pie crust. I do pie crust a little different, and the way I do it is I've taught people all over the world on pie making. And if you ever go to, right now, King Arthur Flour Company out of Vermont, they do cooking classes there, and I've taught pie making over at their kitchens. So here is what we have. We have flour, a little bit of sugar, and salt. And I don't use a mixer either. Mixer heats up too much. Now, I do have pie crusts that I do with half shortening, half butter, all shortening. I have some with all butter. I have all sorts of different kind of pie crust, but this is a typical pie crust. More of technique is what you want to take away from this, and then you can make any pie crust. Here's a blending fork, and this one is difficult to find sometimes. They come in plastic now, but the tines of the fork are triangular, you'll see, and this happens to be Julia Child's former fork, so I use it once in a while. I blend all my dry ingredients, and now I've got shortening. 9 tablespoons of shortening, and you're just going to take little pieces of the shortening and place it into the bowl. And sometimes it sticks on the edges, and sometimes it will go all over the place. But just take a little bit of the shortening. Now, I've read all sorts of things with pie making. I read where people take it and freeze the butter or the shortening, and then use a grater and grate it. And I've done all sorts of different tricks. I've seen vodka going into it to where the vodka dissipates afterwards, but I tend to just do it this way, old-fashioned way. My grandmother used to make pies, but I never made one with her because she wouldn't let you in the kitchen. And she used to say, people pay good money for my pies, because she'd sell them at the bazaars during the fall. So, and I realized, I went to the bazaars with her one time, and I realized why they call them bazaars, because everything they sell there is bizarre, except the pies. So she would do about 6 pies, and they'd be sold when she walked in with the pies. So I asked her secret, because I thought, everyone has a secret. What's the secret? She said, I just use the Crisco pie can recipe, and that's it. And I tell everybody how great the pies are. So I really think that's what people do, is they believe what older people say. They use the pie recipe, and then they do it that way. Her pumpkin pie, I thought she probably took the pumpkin and cooked it and did the whole thing. No, she bought the canned stuff and poured it in. But she told everybody it was fresh, because it was fresh. It kind of reminds me of a bakery I worked at once. They said we make everything from scratch, and then they had all mixes. And I said, what in the world? I thought we did everything from scratch. They said, when you open the box, scratch your leg, and there, we've done it from scratch. I thought, what an idiot, but that's how they did it. All right, so Alexa heard. Oh, I should never say that word, because then she goes crazy. So we're just going to take the shortening, which was cold, and press it down. Neil, you want to get a close-up of this part? And I'm rotating the bowl. Use a larger bowl than you need. And see, like that? Now you shake this and the large pieces come to the top. See? So you keep doing this. This is only a 1 crust. If you want to double this, go ahead, but you will not be doubling the water. The water doesn't take double. It's kind of strange, but just like that. Now we are going to press these down a little bit. And what we want is the crust to melt, the fat to melt in the oven. So I take a few tablespoons at a time of ice water. We try to keep everything as cold as possible. And now I'm going to use a different technique. I'm going to take the fork and go upward. Just like that. So we don't get our hands in there yet. And then we'll do some more. It's better to add a little bit of water at a time instead of all of it. If you dump it all in there, you might, don't want ice cubes. In big bakeries, when we make pie crust, we use shaved ice because the heat of the mixer will work that way. But this way, we can't really do that. We don't want to do shaved ice. So now we're going to smash it, and it starts combining together. I think a little bit more water, and then we're going to be good. And I'll show you the trick on how you know if you have enough water in your crust. But you can see I've still got some, I call it crust or flour dry particles. I've got a lot of ice cubes in here now, so I'm going to hold the ice cubes, just drizzle, drizzle. And you don't want, if you do add too much ice, if you go and decide to do more flour, your ratio is going to be off. You can start seeing it's coming together now. See how the edges, it still looks dry, but it's not. Watch this. Like that. Just got to pull all the pieces together. Now this is how you know if it's too dry. Go like this, break it open. If it starts falling apart, it's dry. It's fine. Okay? Just like that. So now the other thing is you're going to refrigerate this for about 20 minutes before you roll it out. Now, you hear people say, put it into a ball and throw it in the fridge. Well, if you do that, and it's a ball like this, and then you roll it out, you're going to get it cracking all over the place. So what I do is I pat it already into a disc, and I'll place this in the fridge, just like that. And we'll be right back. While our dough is in the fridge for about 20 minutes, we can mix up the mixture for the inside of the pie. And like I said, it was at Tahitian Terrace. They served this from 1962 till 1993. And then it turned into Aladdin's Oasis. And it was really close, right next to the Enchanted Tiki Room, which was one of the beautiful original places that was at the World's Fair back in New York in the 60s. So I did the crust in this bowl. I'm going to do the filling in this bowl so you don't have to remix. And this one does have powdered milk in this because we would use powdered milk. We don't want a lot of liquid in here. The only liquid that we have here is some butter, and then we do use real maple syrup. We did not use Anja you-know-who or Log you-know-where. So we've got some flour. And the reason why I don't tell you those names, and you all know the names, because I might be sponsored by them one time and they'll say, you talked bad about us. But never. So anyway, we've got sugar, flour, the dry milk, and dry milk sometimes gets a little chunky. Got a little sugar. We're gonna blend that up. Make sure it just gets all, we don't want a bunch of chunks, but if you have a chunk of something, you're gonna be okay because we're going to have the macadamia nuts. They are expensive, but we're only using 4 ounces. And we would get 25-pound boxes of those in the bakery. So we put those into our cookies and in this pie recipe. So we've got melted butter, the eggs, a little corn syrup, And make sure we get all the corn syrup. As I splatter me. That's why we have chef coats on. If I had to go out into the park, I'd have to change my chef coat because I'd have chocolate dripping from me sometimes. And I'd have a new chef coat every day. Thank goodness I didn't have to do the laundry. When I was in culinary school, I would do the laundry, well, my mom would, and it would be funny. I would take off like the chef coat and put it, just, put it in the laundry room, and it would, dust of sugar would come off of it. It was just the strangest thing. So you can see in here, Neil's gonna do a close-up of the mixture right now. And this is our brown sugar, our flour, corn syrup, eggs. I'm just making sure. If you do have a few little chunks in there, you're gonna be okay because they won't know if they bit into the macadamia nut or the sugar. So there's our syrup, and we will blend this up. And there is our mixture that will go into our pie crust. Now, what it is, it's the macadamia nuts we'll put on the bottom of the pie crust, and then we'll pour this on top of it. So we won't be putting the macadamia nuts in yet. We want to make sure they get soaked. So we'll put this off to the side, and we'll be right back, and we're going to roll out our pie crust, and I'll show you how to roll a pie crust the perfect way. Okay, our pie crust, 15 minutes in the fridge. Here's our pan, and I'm just using a regular metal pan. If you remember the Marie Callender pans, they were really only 8-inch round. If you measure this, this is a full 9-inch, and that's what you want. So what we do is we take flour on our surface, got a little water. Now, here's how we do it. Here's our pie crust in a circle, okay? We are going to treat it like a clock. I'm gonna always start in the middle and roll outward. So I'm gonna go roll out to 12 o'clock, roll back to 6, gonna turn the dough, and then do it again, 12 and 6. So it'll look like this. Then I'm gonna go outward this way, and it'll keep it in a circle. So you'll see when Neil does a close-up of this. And you always heard, don't put too much flour or it'll get tough. Well, you have a choice. More flour or sticking. We don't want it to stick. So I don't do too much flour, but there we go. All right. Again, I keep using a tapered rolling pin because if I did a 9-inch rolling pin, it would only come to here and I would only have that much room in my pan, 9 inches across. So here we go. Dead center, roll out. Dead center, roll out. So I pick up the pen each time I do it. Turn it, make sure you have enough flour on the bottom. We're gonna go dead center and roll out, and dead center and roll out. It's starting to stick here a little bit. If it does that, just put a little flour. Now, we've done a plus pattern. We're gonna go out to 10 o'clock, down to 4, down to 7, and over to 2 o'clock. We're gonna feel the dough, and it's a little thick over here. Always go to the center, always go to the center. Then come over here. You want about 1.5 inches around, and that's where we're at. So now, Neil's gonna back up just a little. When we pull this, we do not press the dough down, and keep it right there on the, and we're gonna bring it up. If you press the dough down, it will stick on itself. Now, if you mess this up, you can redo it a little bit, but just like that. You don't want to stretch the dough. So I'm gonna go that way. If you stretch it, it kind of shrinks. So there you go. So instead of pushing down right now, I'm gonna lay it down like that, just like that. At Disney, we did not make our pie crusts, so, which was nice. They came in already done. So now I'm gonna make a wall, and when I make a wall, I'm just pressing to make a wall around it. And then after the wall, I will do this and pick it up. and it cuts it. Voila! Now at this point, you can do all sorts of edging if you want. I'm going to just take a fork and do the fork edge, just like that. Just go across, just so it has some type of design. And then I'm going to put my macadamia in this. Now, you'll also get, I get the question, when do you prick the bottom of the crust? Well, think about it. Is the pie being baked as a lemon meringue pie type pie, or is it going to be made into something to where we bake the whole thing? So we're baking the whole thing. If I prick this and put the mixture into it, it'll go between the pan and the crust. So, but if it was going to be something like a lemon meringue pie, that one, you don't bake the lemon part in the oven. You do it on the top. So see how the macadamia nuts, you want to move them around so you have some for every piece. And then you're going to take that mixture that we did, and we're going to just pour those in, just like that. And this will make our pie. Okay, so we're going to put this in the oven, and we'll be back. But before we do that, just to let you know, if the pie starts browning around the edge, just take a little bit of foil and put it on top, and you'll be okay. So we'll be right back. And here's the pie right out of the oven. We'd like to thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you tomorrow. Make sure you watch the rest of the show because we've got the Tahitian dancers and also a picture of the 35th anniversary of the cast members in front of Sleeping Beauty's castle. Take care. Have a great day. Bye now.